This video is brought to you by BTI Institute, a New Jersey leader in certification-based management training.
I'm Bob Phillips, and because of where I work, they make me say this whenever I speak publicly. I Anything that I share is my opinion. It's not. I don't represent anything from the Federal Reserve Bank in New York or the Board of Governors. So this is just Bob talking and Bob sharing his experience. And so, Nitin, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Nitin Khanna. I tag team with Bob, and I am the Agile Local Community of Interest chairperson. I'm just helping overlook that. And today we're going to have a great lean coffee.
Okay, so this is a lean coffee template that if you have a Miro license, I think they even have a free version. You can just click on lean coffee and get this template. And so pretty much, Nitin, I think you described this already a little bit, but the way this UI works is you just click, it's like this you can pretend that you're sitting in a conference room and you know how normally they hand out these post-it notes. Well, here's a pad of post-it notes, and you can just click on it and drag it over, and then basically that'll become your post-it note. And then from there, you can just double click inside it and start typing, and that would capture your idea. And so, what we want to do is we'll talk about anything as long as it has to do with working with agile teams. We don't do politics. We keep it all friendly. So let's just stick to the agile topics. Nitin, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, and very quickly, for those who have not experienced lean coffee, just a small step back. This is an opportunity to see what is present at the moment without any agendas. It is the collective intellect of a group coming together and have some discussions. And we might find a few similarities, something that are common. We'll have an opportunity to have a democratic voice to bubble those things up and then take it further downstream and talk through it. Some of us may have taken a peek further down to the right. We typically have things to do, things in progress, and things that are done. So we'll follow that same flow, similar to a lot of Kanban teams and what even Scrum teams use as well. So right now, what we would encourage, as Bob said, we can just click on a post-it and see if you have a topic of interest and see what comes about. Minor tool thing. If, oh my God, I got to undo this. Where's the undo? Control Z or Command Z will, on a Mac, will just undo in case you have anything that you wanted to go back a step. So let's give everybody a few moments. This is where we invite you and say, hey, if there's something in mind, just go ahead and put yourself in.
So what I did is I clicked on these icons up here and I chose timer, and it's giving us, and I just picked 2 minutes. And so far somebody's been brave enough to enter an item. So let's see if we can get some more.
In case you're having trouble with the tool, you can also put something in the chat that I can monitor and just type it on your behalf or do a copy and paste. So I heard something, Bob.
What's that?
That's our virtual time box. Wherever we are, we're fine, even though we might not find a lot of post-it notes. We can still, during this lean coffee, keep adding to this emerging, evolving backlog, which is what, again, a lot of software development teams have. They have a list of work, it's a wish list, and work emerges. So ideas, questions, thoughts can still emerge during this time we have. So what's next, Bob?
All right, now basically we have a list of items that are these discussion topic boxes. And what I can do is I'll click on these three icons up here. And again, I'm doing this so that you besides doing the lean coffee, you also get introduced to Miro as well. So I'm going to click on this box here. And then there's the timer, which I already showed you. There's voting. So I'm going to click on voting. And so now you can have a choice where you can give everybody one vote or two or three or as many as you like. It then sets how much time we're going to have for voting. You can let people vote multiple times for an object. And so let's just go with that. And what I'm doing is I'm going to center it around sticky notes. These are the sticky notes that we're going to be voting on. So anything that's a sticky note will then become a voting object. And so now then I'm going to press on the start button. And now magically Miro should put a little plus sign next to all the objects. And I'm going to join it as well. And the other thing is it doesn't mark who actually voted. And are you guys seeing voting boxes, or is this a?
Yep, we have that option. I see it.
So there's a plus sign next to the post-it note.
I think we might have. I'm only seeing a one post-it note where I could vote, Bob.
Yeah,
I don't know if the others were added, so might have to just reselect.
Let me do that again.
And I see some things in the chat. I'll try to quickly put those in.
I'm going to do that again. I'm going to pick voting.
And if you were in person in a conference room, just to contrast, this is a nice democratic way. Some people are more verbose and are extroverts. Some are more introverts and are a little bit more shy. And this is just a great opportunity to equally go in and have the same weight and just spread it out however they want on a topic.
Are we supposed to be able to vote on any of the post-its?
Yeah.
'Cause I'm not
Yes.
able
Yeah,
to.
it's not allowing, it's not allowing.
Yes, I'm giving. It's doesn't seem to be behaving the way I was expecting it to when I tried it earlier. It's pretty. If you can see my screen, you can see that these choices here, but there's no numbers. So it's not actually seeing those as votable objects. So
No, it's not allowing to vote at all.
All right, maybe we'll just get one last try, Bob, and if not, because technicalities, let's just go top down is just my proposition, or bottom up, or zigzag.
yeah, I think so. I hopefully, and we could keep each topic short. Oh, now that it's saying there's 4 there, so it's getting, but there's more than 4.
Well, maybe because you had a set up voting like multiple times, so it's going to give you a multitude of results. That's fine.
I think I might have confused it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And again, Scrum Master tips, sorry, in case, when you are facilitating your daily scrums, you typically have an application like Jira, it's flat, and what a Scrum Master might say is, hey, who wants to go first? And sometimes there's silence, So then you have to figure out, okay, what's going on? So then you got to throw out some ideas, maybe, that's introducing bias. But you say, do you want me to go top down or bottom up or zigzag? Like, what does that mean? Like, okay, we all have to do something together. So we'll just go from the top to the bottom, which is understandable. And likewise, bottom to the top. Or zigzag is just pick something randomly, and then people get alert all of a sudden. Oh, my name is going to be called. Instead of saying, okay, it's just person A or person B. Eventually, the team will get comfortable enough and say, hey, yeah, let me go first. I have something to share or concern, and so on and so forth.
So I think then we should probably just do the top down or the bottom up, like you mentioned.
Okay, let's keep it random. We could do top down, and then maybe next one bottom up or zigzag.
Okay. So can you drag that top one over?
Alrighty. And so that is any tips for using Jira, discussing now. And this is again a tip, we have people just physically touch a post-it and move it over so that they get a bit more ownership, more engagement, and we just talk about this for a little bit.
Okay.
And it's an open forum.
All right. So I guess you want to start then? You want me to? And then we'll definitely open it up to the community here.
Oh, I've been blabbering too much. I'm
Okay.
open. I'll let you go or keep it open to community.
All right. Well, I've been using Jira for probably around 15 years. And what I've found is sometimes when I start working with a team, they may end up having there's this whole idea between of an epic or a feature, which is the higher level grouping of the work. And what I've found is that sometimes a team might create like 30, 40, 50 features or epics. And then that list of features or epics becomes so unmanageable because if you think about it, you're trying to associate a story that you're creating in Jira with one of those. And so my recommendation, again, this is just from using it for so many years, is to try to keep the list to under 10, ideally even less than that. And then because really, if you think about it, the features or the epics are what delivers the business value. So you have a team that's working really hard and they can't be working on 100 different epics, which is multiple stories and all those kinds of things. So if you have that list small, you're able to basically associate where the work is and really manage it that way. What I've also done is on the boards, there's a concept in Jira where you have what they call a fixed version, which is actually the release. And so what I do is I write the JQL to actually create a swim lane for a release. And then that way the team can see very visually what, what's in the next release and where it stands on the board. And then the last thing, I don't want to do all the talking here. The last thing that I do is I make the board more transparent, where basically where it shows, like, if it's in development, is it ready to be deployed to testing? Is it in the test environment? We call that QMO, where it is. And then basically then it goes from there, it goes into the QA environment for UAT. So if you have the board with columns that represent, where the actual work is, when you have your daily scrum, it's very easy to see, what the team's doing and how they're actually, working toward that release. So Minton, did you have any, working with Jira, did you have any other ideas to share?
Oh, just get a little familiar with jQueries or JQL. That might just ease things with reporting, metrics, dashboarding. Anybody else have any tips or tricks or things that are pain point that they've resolved or want to share?
Say JQL, are you talking about like writing queries to pull back JIRAs that are associated, whatever, that are the results of your query?
Yeah. So,
Okay.
yeah, Jira will allow for you to put in like some custom queries for reporting and other things. And you don't have to be an expert at this, but if you Google a few things or scenarios, there's plenty of forums and support as well to get some interesting metrics and dashboards, things for your widgets.
And JQL stands for Jira Query Language.
Got it.
Hey Bob,
And
and Nitin, I have something to add
Yeah,
for
go ahead.
Jira that might be helpful to some people that I've used on a number of teams for sprint planning and actually big room planning. There's an integration tool where you can actually pull the tickets or your Jira tickets directly from Jira into Miro or um, Mural, the other one. You can pull it in, and after you make changes on the board, it makes changes in Jira directly, so it keeps them in sync. And so you have um, a visual view of what you're planning and what's going to be done and in which sprint and whatnot. So that's a helpful tip and something that I found very useful.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
I also extract the JIRA details because I do a lot of Excel reports. And so I have formulas that can do like lookups into the extract that I get out of JIRA to keep status up to date, because a lot of people don't go into JIRA. So I have to provide reporting on the outside.
Yeah, that can happen. While you have a tool which is considered a source of truth, there are people who may not have access or just want a different view or visualization or something else that maybe it's not easy to get to from Jira itself. So yeah, as long as it's in sync somehow or the other, which is why we have you also, that's going to be helpful to a lot of people outside.
Another Atlassian product is called Confluence. And that's like a very, it's like a wiki site on steroids because there's a lot of functionality where you can actually build pages. And since it's the same company, you can actually build Confluence pages that will display your data that's in your Jira project. So you'd be able to then group your work, like if you want to do a sprint review or anything like that, you could actually write a query, again, using the JQL, and it would actually present that data in Confluence, and that would keep your user community outside of Jira, so they don't have to go to Jira at all. And the other cool thing is it creates a link. Like if a person did want to actually go into Jira, they could. And so it gives you that type of capability for reporting.
Cool. Should we give this a thumbs up or okay and move on to other things? Going once, going twice, going thrice. All righty. So I will move it a little bit. And yeah, we didn't put a timer, but
Yeah.
what we do, and Scrum Masters do as well, sometimes they have a tool or a timer to say, hey, let's not dwell on this too much, or Colin Elmo, enough, let's move on, because you have other things to get to. And in good faith, we assume this is the one that fostered the most curiosity because we did some sort of pseudo voting. And it's, again, the value of the backlog. Things on the top are the most relevant or pressing or immediate, and then we move on to other things. So let's move on. It's Bob. I don't know if you can see Bob's right side of his screen as much, but I am just using a direct link.
So do you want to do the next one then?
Let's see. Let's go bottom up. Surprise. Like you see for alert. Let's see what it is though. Actually, it's a more tool-based question, could be very similar. Compare Trello, Jira, and Miro. Anyone better or based on the effort project involved? Anybody has any ideas or opinions? Any preferences before I talk?
I think they were just waiting for you to talk.
Trello is ultra light, and I use it on my day-to-day life. It doesn't necessarily have a strong integrated or automated metric aspect of it. There are certain power-ups that Trello will give you, and some are more creative and you could even subscribe to. So if you're doing like something for nonprofit or for family time or something as a quick huddle with family or groups, volunteers, then I love Trello for that reason. A lot of organizations also use it. If you are an organization that, of course, has teams and has to deal with all kinds of numbers, then Jira has a lot of integrations with, the sprints, the burn downs, um, burn ups based on either sprint level, release level, and so on and so forth. That's there. Miro is what we're using right now. It's a great visual again. A lot of people like this. It takes a little getting used to, but it's very flexible as well. So those are just my thoughts, just depending on the situation or the organization or the team or the effort. But Jira, I would say, is the most common that I have been seeing. Any other thoughts, views, biases, gotchas?
Yeah, I can add on to the Trello comment. I volunteered at my church, and we had a technology committee, and it was, it was a pretty good size effort. It lasted about a year. And so what we did is we used Trello to document everything. And at first I thought it was going to be difficult, but once everybody got used to using it, all the information was there. So it was like you didn't have to deal with email. You didn't have to deal with figuring out where stuff was, because it was there. And what really proved that it was a great solution was like a year later, somebody came up to me in the church and said, "Hey, Bob, I heard you had this technology committee. Well, like, what'd you guys do?" I just pointed him to the Trello board, and it was all there. It was just really cool. But does anybody have anything else they'd like to share about this topic? And I didn't hit the start button, and boy, I'm slipping here. Are we good with this topic?
Going once, going twice, and going thrice. That's it. We have the concept of a time box, and some people say max time box, which means, hey, if you don't need the entire 5 minutes, just end the time and then move on to something else. Alrighty, well, let's see what's next then. I'll go top down, moving a PMO from waterfall to agile. That's a big one. That's like more like an epic or feature, but let's see how to decompose it.
That could be a whole meeting. This time I'll set the time box. Can you guys see it? It's
Yeah, nice. You see it.
Okay.
I'll open it up for others because they have probably had some exposure to this as well, or some thoughts.
The person that wrote it, do you want to start us off?
I mean, I can. I was mainly looking for some advice. I have a PMO that sits in our IT department, and they primarily run pretty waterfall. I mean, some iterative planning, but it's pretty much basically waterfall. And now the new CIO wants to convert all of them to Agilist, and they kind of seem confused. They're thinking it's just a matter of rewriting all of their templates and things like that. So um, I'm not directly in the department. My department already runs Agile, so they've asked me to help give them advice and coach them through it, but it seems a little difficult. So looking for advice, anyone that's been through it, uh, any suggestions, or even if there's any outside consultants that I can recommend to them.
Thank you for that context. A lot of organizations are evolving. Some of them are still waterfall, which is fine. Some of them are heading into agility. Some of them are experimenting with agility. Broadly speaking, in terms of approach, what I have found is there's a top-down approach, something's coming from the C-level suite, to something more organic coming bottom up, where you might have one team that is trying something with agility with one initiative and to see what happens. And then there are organizations like Google that tried something stealth, which is they didn't really use a lot of formal lingo with Agile and Scrum and sprints, but they said, hey, let's have a huddle together and let's talk about a few things for about 15 minutes in the mornings and see what we have in terms of anything that's blocking us, right? So it's a more soft message, but getting into, you know, teams that are well organized, cross-functional, and just bringing in the essence of what agility is all about, right? To have someone at that level who wants something like this, I would say is great. And it just depends on a lot on how large the organization is, the culture is, how quickly they want to bring about something. My bias has always been, let's go bottom up. Why don't we ask this person, hey, if you could pick one initiative that's right in the forefront or on the other end of the spectrum that's kind of in trouble, could we get could we do a leap of faith and do an experiment with just one initiative and see how that goes? before we get on to 2 teams or 3 teams and then get further into the organization. That is one approach. That is one way of being biased, and those are just my biases.
And I mean, for me and from experience, that always tends to work better as well, that bottom up approach. So this is very different. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, it's coming
So
from the CIO, so it's coming from top down.
okay, that's fine. The other way of looking at it is there are many flavors of agility. You could use Scrum, you could use Kanban, you could use something else. And I would start looking into, well, another way of looking at this pyramid, right? There are 2 sides of a coin, but I say there are many sides of a pyramid, right? So which angle are we looking at? And we might need some more time for this. Sorry, Bob. Do you have like production support where they get tickets ad hoc, anytime, be it morning, evening, whatnot? That might be more suitable for a Kanban team. And okay, what does that look like? And you might already have people doing something like that with certain tools. And then you have people with who are enhancing existing features or building new features. I'm assuming, again, this is all software development. And how do you want to position people around there? That's another approach, and that would get into Scrum. Right. And then you would need to get some one-on-one training, right? So if you're wanting to experiment with Scrum, hey, you might want to hire an external instructor or send people to training so they're all speaking the same lingo, and ask, say, what would that look like, I haven't gotten into something very subtle but very important, and that's into change management as well. Which is like, how do you get people together, get the thoughts aligned, keep the organization aligned, and see whether that's intimidating or resistance to change, or if everybody is excited, So a lot there in this epic of a topic. So Tisha, I don't know how that resonated with you, how that landed. Just keep talking because everybody's listening and they all have something to say.
No, it does resonate. And I think perhaps proposing it in smaller groups may actually go over okay. Like you said, there are different flavors of Agile, and I think from the CIO's perspective, he's really looking at Scrum, and everyone is kind of moving that way. That's the most popular. I think he, of course, has heard it, and it's the new tag for him. So, but I think you make a good point, especially like for our service desk and all. Probably Kanban would make more sense for them. So this is good
Okay, that's
advice.
good.
I also saw Alpish's response, so appreciate that too.
I just like to add in a shorter way, like moving from PMO to VMO, Project Management Office to Value Management Office.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Alpesh. And Tom had his hand up too. Tom, give us your words of wisdom.
It wasn't the words of wisdom, but the one thing and I think we all know this as project managers, the key things is identifying that key stakeholder or that person that you can align with that can be your support. So if you start small and you find a group where you can get that success, that's only going to rally the troops to the next one where you build upon it. I think one of the challenges when you try to do it to everyone, the whole concept of change, the whole concept of, oh my gosh, it's not the way we've ever done it, becomes a challenge. You'll always have the noisiest wheels preventing things from being successful. But if you find someone that you can ally with and that you can sort of build that successful experience, the sky's the limit then when you go for the next one. Just my 2 cents.
Good. Thanks, Tom.
And then the other thing that I would recommend is if you do follow Scrum, try not to cut corners, meaning like a lot of, unfortunately, I've seen it, where they say, oh, the Scrum Master can be the product owner. I'm sure everybody on the call has probably seen that too. And you really can't do that if you really want to follow Scrum. So, the Scrum Guide, a lot of great thinking has gone into it. And so if you do Scrum, just try to follow that, especially with the roles and the events. The daily Scrum means daily, not once a week, things like that. You come in and teach you can say, hey, by the way, why are we doing that, right? But anyway, hope that's helpful.
Thank you.
So Bob, for someone, daily could be like, no, more than 24 hours a day, kind of, no, 48 or 72 hours. So they are doing daily.
Yeah. It's just an interesting thing how and what I always like is that the team's doing really well. Oh, we don't need a retro. We are great already. Like, why do we need that? But it's all about improving. You can always be better.
Yeah,
And that's what makes our job fun.
Yeah, we are already improved, so we don't need any more improvements.
Right.
Yeah, Tisha, I like add a little 2 cents to that just because I've been through a mandate come
That's
from
what it is.
top down to the bottom and everybody get in step. But one of your challenges is going to be just getting a buy-in. A lot of people are going to ask you, why are we doing this? I mean, just because the CEO, the CIO wants you to do it, they still want to know why. Why do we have to do this? What's the real value in the daily standards? What's the real value in the retros? You're going to have to explain that, or someone's going to have to really keep explaining that to them because they'll be thinking it's just a checklist. So, oh, we just need to do this. Okay, it's in the guide. We have to follow it strictly. We have to just check the boxes. You want to explain why you're doing these processes and what the value is from them and get alliances and then build other champions that can help you, kind of get that throughout the change the whole culture, basically, what you have to do.
Right,
And
right. Yeah,
it's
that's a
gonna
good point.
take some time for that to happen. It's not gonna be overnight.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Demetrius. Good feedback. Tisha, you want to hear more? Or do you want to break and move on to another
No, I'll
night?
ask again next month.
That's
Tell us how you
fine.
did, right?
Thank you.
I can't
Alrighty,
resist.
folks.
I'm sorry. I just can't. All right. On the daily Scrum, I've seen so many times the Scrum Master gets in the middle and calls on people, creating that hub and spoke type of thing. And then what that does is basically when you call on somebody, everybody else kind of zones out because they think, oh, they're just talking to Bob. I don't really care what they say. So you want to make it so they call in each other. So basically you say, hey, who wants to start? And then they call in the next person, and then it's totally random. And then it becomes it's their meeting. It's not like this hub and spoke reporting to the person in the center. But anyway, I could
Right.
talk
Yep.
about this stuff for hours. But sorry, Nitin.
No, that's fine. So a lot of times when we have items in the backlog and discussions happen, right? You're like, this is kind of a big story. I think it's a feature and epic. Can we kind of slice and dice it a little bit? And that can also happen when we're having what we call refinement sessions, right? So Tisha has brought up a great topic of discussion, and there's so many of aspects of it. So software development team or this community might actually break it up into smaller cards and put it into our backlog. So again, it's just a refinement technique and a concept like that, but all good discussions. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and move it ahead to topics discussed. And we've got some other cards. So we were doing top down, bottom up. Oh, let me do zigzag. Just picked a random one from the middle that keep people, my topic came up. This one says, what is happening in the world of Agile? Which again, I think is very broad, but hey, this would bring good conversations out there. And I'll mute myself.
Is that a way of saying you're not going to say anything? Okay. I went to Agile 2025. For those that have not gone, I figured out a good way to go where you could be a volunteer, where they pay for your conference fee. And then you get kind of an inside look at what's going on. And what I saw at the conference, and it started to get a little bit old. I'm not like disparaging the conference or not. It started out with the relationship between Agile Alliance and PMI. It's huge. Like there's a whole new logo that they came out with for uh, for the Agile Alliance, and it seems like PMI is really going to be investing heavily into the Agile Alliance. And what I saw at the Agile Alliance was a lot of topics, and I guess everybody would probably guess it was all AI. And it got to a point where I was starting to say, "Oh, please, no more AI." But they also changed the format. It used to be 5 days, then they kind of narrowed it down to 3. But it seems, my again, this is just Bob's assessment, that it seems like the whole landscape is changing. Uh, there's, you can't, Agile's definitely not dead. It's sort of like showing where the value is now, and basically it's kind of been accepted. It's not this crazy thing that teams were doing, and so that it's I'd say it's in pretty solid footing, and basically AI and how it's going to be impacting how teams work and all this, was major discussion. So anybody else want to add to this topic? What do
Noting
you
that I
guys?
went as well and I bumped into Bob. And it was a lot of AI and enterprise agility from PMI's perspective. So, but it was fun. It was still a great conference.
And the next year it's going to be in Washington D.C., so it's going to be more local to us. And from what I'm hearing is PMI is going to take more of a leadership role as far as running the conference as well.
I just learned.
Supplement. Go ahead, Demetrius.
I just learned something today. Actually, I was in another lean coffee at lunchtime, and they were talking about the Agile in 2025, and a gentleman mentioned Jim Highsmith introduced an Agile manifesto that PMI has kind of put together, and I was trying to get a little bit more information of it. He sent the video about him talking about it, but I still am not really clear. I'm pasting the video in the chat here, but wonder if those of you who had went, can you give a little bit more context about this, and is it like really something new, or is it just something that a new branding that PMI is putting on the Agile Manifesto? What can anyone shed any light on that?
Unfortunately, I didn't see that session, so I can't shed light on it. But I do know from here previously, they've been trying to get the Agile Manifesto changed over the years. It's been around since 2001, and the original people, the original signatories said, no, we're not going to change it. The biggest thing was, changing the word software, because really it's being applied way beyond just software. But I'm very interested in that. I'm going to definitely check that out. Thank you for sharing that Jim Highsmith video.
I did go to that session, and that was exactly it, Bob. He was saying that they wanted to update the manifesto so that it's not so much tied to software engineering. So, but I don't think that they have. I think that they're in the process of updating it.
Well, thank
Yeah,
you.
that's great. And historically, people, when they signed the manifesto, they came from software development. So that's just how it was written. So it's got further impact and far-reaching impacts as of today. But thank you all for sharing.
So we're at time on that.
Oh, okay. Going once, going twice, going thrice. And we did have colorful dots on these. That's great. All right, top down, bottom up, zigzag. All right, how about top down? Has anybody used AI to create or groom the backlog or refine the backlog? I'm curious about this because I, as a former product owner, have not seen AI in action for the refinement session, but if anybody has, I'd be curious to hear as well.
Probably talking too much, but why not? We've been experimenting, and the way our approach has been, we come up with a document as far as what makes a good user story. And, we include things like invest. We include acceptance criteria using given, when, then. And then we put that into the AI engine. And then from there, we put a user story in and have the AI evaluated based on that. If you just go and just take a user story and put it into AI and make this better, it needs some kind of ground rules to follow. So, and the feedback I've been hearing has been pretty positive. And where I find in my use of AI is when, you take something that's got 100 words in it and say, hey, make it less wordy and stuff like that, and make it more clear and concise and easy to understand. Like it's been an interesting thing where, it'll run through it, it'll come back and give you this, and you say, no, that's not what I want. That's not clear. You got to do better. And then you run through it again, and it comes back with a better version of that. At least that's been, what I've been seeing. There's teams, toying. I can't really say the word toying, experimenting with it. And anybody else?
Yeah. Haven't not with the backlog per se. Someone switched this just a little bit into a different ceremony, but I've seen it in action with um, inspect and adapt and retros where you put in all the stickies all over, and so many people are doing so many things. They use the AI to group it, go in and find out what are the common themes quickly so that you could keep the meeting running and pretty smoothly, and it would group them into these themes so that you could say, oh, okay, these things go together, maybe this is covered in you know uh, some of these other cards that are out there so that you don't have a lot of duplicates. um so I've seen that, and it remarkably it was pretty good.
That's
And like
great.
metric, I don't know if anybody's ever experimented with metrics. Your cycle time, your plan to done ratio, your defects. I said, I said, what the heck, I took some metrics from my team and I said, okay, what do you see? And it came back with really dumb things. I'm being pretty blunt and honest here. And I said, come on, you got to do better than this. Like, so what? You're telling me, you're increasing your cycle time over the last couple of sprints. So what? What does that mean? And so I kind of had to almost prompt or coach it into telling me to actually tell me what the metrics are saying. But anyway, it's just an interesting world that we live in right now.
Nice. If I could also add, we have had some guest speakers at our discussion groups last year. A gentleman by the name of Ritesh Vajaria, and he gave a real-time demo of what it would look like for a product owner to go from a feature to a multitude of stories. And he used an example, hey, you want to start a dog walking service, and there's a lot into that. So what is needed, And if you get a chance to go to the event section and you will see it recorded and live and what came about. So I think it will help you break down things up to a certain level of granularity, after which a product owner really needs to get into the acceptance criteria and validate that and make sure the dev team is also engaged and it makes sense for them. So you could go 30,000 feet down to 20, down to 10, and then you don't know if you're going to be parachuting into the water or the grass or off a cliff, right? So it'll help augment a few things, but you still need the human intellect and that of the tribe and the group after a certain junction. That's just my thought and my opinion as of right now.
Anyone else?
I think Barb, you
Yes.
had a similar question in the chat, right, about AI. I'm trying to. I don't think we made a sticky though.
Yeah, I didn't have my mouse with me, so I couldn't control the board and figure out how to put the sticky. But yeah, it's more just there seems to be this push now, just like you have a push from your C-level suite to, everything needs to switch to Scrum and be running that way, whether it makes sense or not. There's also this great big push that we have to start using AI, and I was just wondering how maybe AI is being used in any of your Scrum teams or you know, whatever.
That's a question for the group.
Yeah, I mean, for us, we haven't used it that heavily. We do use it for meetings and action items to kind of pull meeting minutes now using some of these like this has AI companion and then making action items. We have tried making new tasks um, from meeting notes and things like that, but not too in depth. I can't say our group is leaning on AI. We do a lot of development with it, but not using it um, to help with the processes.
Gotcha.
Should we give it a thumbs up and call this done?
We have
Yep.
a little over 5 minutes left and we got one topic, so.
All right, going once, going twice, going thrice. Top down, bottom up, zigzag. That's a trick question, just to make sure everybody's alert. All right, how to continue to utilize traditional PM methodology while being agile. All right, open forum. Anybody have any thoughts, questions?
Yeah, this one has always been I've always it kind of rubbed me a little wrong. And don't take this the wrong way, everybody. I'm talking about in terms of when Agile was introduced, it was almost like let's throw everything out the window with traditional project management because Agile was a new flavor, right? So everybody wanted to move to it. And I was like, no, 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 no. There are still great things in traditional project management. And the one thing that I thought was the most valuable was risk management. How to deal with risk on agile projects. I thought the traditional, five steps for risk management worked perfectly well. integrated with and aligned with Agile. And so I think there's some synergies between the two. It's just I think people get caught up on the terms, and they get sometimes treat these things like religions. And I think that there's benefits in both, and I think they can work well together. So that's my 2 cents.
You bring up a good point. If we were to throw out any formal lingo out the window, be it waterfall, Scrum, Kanban, right? There's something a little bit more to the core. And you used risk as an example, just that, And be it traditional waterfall or agile teams, you're going to come across risk, right? And how do we deal with that? How do we address that? What do we take care of now or in the immediate? How heavy is it? Was it identifiable? Do we take care of it later on? How far out? Or is it as of like today, right? These are questions that will come about naturally, and someone has to figure out what to do. Some people will have to figure out what to do and see where it fits in. I remember when I was looking at the ACP, there was the concept of a risk-based backlog. And some people are like, what is that? Well, if you go with some metrics like probability times impact equals a score, right? If you have the luxury and the ability to add metadata to your product backlog items, you could add it on if you wanted to. If you have someone in the periphery with that mindset to say, well, I see all this thing here and I understand things on the top are refined or they're ready to go, and you say that has most value, but what about risk? How do I look at this from another dimension? They said, well, hold on. I had a jQuery and another view, and I have a numeric thing. Yeah, like I see these user story Fibonacci things, but I'm looking at another dimension as well. You'd say, well, let me get you a number. And what you'll notice from another lens of the prism, right? There is a different view into your product backlog. Now, that is pretty novel. Your dev team may or may not like that, but there's some other people in the periphery who might appreciate it. So how do you welcome people in together to better understand and have conversations and filter it with someone like a product owner to say, well, this is higher risk. It should be further up, and not the other things, The product owner needs to engage with key stakeholders, including some who's looking at it from that angle. Ultimately, the dev team just needs to know who are masters of their craft, by the way. They just need to know, what do we work on first? So I think, Demetrius brings up a great point. You're going to have conversations, right? And you're going to have them around concepts and real world scenarios. And sometimes it's not just, hey, the gospel in one way. You got to look at it holistically if you can. Now, Scrum has rules. Don't get me wrong. I have a 7-year-old who loves candy, but if I find a candy jar with M&Ms and Skittles and maybe some other colorful things, they're like, okay, what is she eating? I need to kind of know. Is it a flavor thing? Because I understand the M&Ms have a chocolate base, but wait, now they have these chocolate with peanuts as well, and chocolate with pretzels as well. It's still that same candy jar, but what is she going to grab onto? Oh, fun story. But that's just my 2 cents.
And so with that, we're at time, and it's also top of the hour. So we should end this because as Agilists, we should always start on time and end on time.